Hey, yo, what it do, what it do? It's your boy Q, and it's been a very busy week. And admittedly, a lot of the drama that's kind of been in the space has been more in the streamer world versus the esports news space. But man, this past weekend, we got to have a banger of an RLCS major, our first 4-region top 4. We had our first All-American roster to be able to hoist a trophy. NA on top, baby. And it does seem the EU is having a little bit of kind of a problem, huffing on the copium, you might say, as far as when it comes to acknowledging that G2 just might be the best team in the world right now. ALGS is coming down the home stretch, heading towards that regional final. Over in our APAC regions, we're actually next up on the board going to be the regional finals here in 2 weekends. But I do think we got to talk about the man with the mustache, but I'm going to do that at the end. We're also going to talk a little bit of VCT. It's episode number 10, baby. Double digits. Let's go ahead and get down into it. Let's get down into what it do. And I think, really, no better place to start than talking about the RLCS. And, you know, we had a couple of world spots that were hanging in the balance when we entered the weekend for RLCS Major number 2 over at the Copper Box Arena. And it all kind of started, especially a big name not being in attendance. That's Karmine Corp. Actually, a fact that Karmine Corp might not have been playing another RLCS game in the 2024 season had it been that Oxygen was able to make it to the grand finals, but things did not go very well for Oxygen. Actually, when we looked at the first round of the Swiss stages, Oxygen was the only team that was unable to win their first round that was a favorite, actually getting upset by Power, which I think had a lot of people wondering if maybe Power might have the ability to give OCE their first top 8 that we haven't seen in a little bit of time. But you know what? They weren't able to make it out of Swiss. Only team that they were able to beat, however, as far as we talk about Oxygen, they were only able to beat Gaming Gladiators and Twisted Minds. So the APAC number 1 seed and the MENA 2 seed, losing to Power, losing to Genji, and then losing to Fury, and what was actually a banger of a series, a 5-game distance goer there in the 5th and final round, but unable to even make the playoffs, so unable to really even put their chances on the line to try and get into that grand finals to just try and secure that spot for not for LANdon, but try and secure that spot for Worlds. But, you know, I think the playoff bracket at the end of the day, once everything was broken down, kind of turned out the way a lot of people were expecting as far as the teams that were involved. I mean, maybe some people had Oxygen in over maybe like a Furia, who did look good all weekend long. Maybe even over an SSG, but I mean, even SSG looked really good as far as through Swiss. And even when they played against G2, there was only a 4-goal differential in the 5-game series there in the quarterfinals. So a team that I think still showed that they do have some promise, maybe a few things to be able to clean up around the edges. But again, I think our top 8 as far as playoffs from our major number 2 pretty well turned out the way a lot of people were expecting, and it delivered us a banger of a product as well. Again, giving us our first top 4 that was from 4 different regions. I mean, honestly, the event was just a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the Swiss stages were amazing. I'll admit, Saturday, the first round as far as the playoffs, just because we only saw all of our best of 7s, they only went to 5. Well, except for the Gentlemates BDS series. And oh my goodness gracious, talk about a thumping, man. I've never been one to think that, you know, at the pro level, you would actually have to have like a forced forfeit, you know, having the ability to vote to concede. But after watching that series, I think we might want to consider it. Truly. I mean, it was a 15-goal differential through 4 matches. At no point in time were BDS able to score more than a singular goal. An individual goal over the course of the sweep there as well. I mean, honestly, Gentlemates came out and looked fire, but BDS just looked like they were defeated. Once they were down like 0-2, I mean, you could see it on all the players' faces. It just looked like they were ready to cash it in. And unfortunately, that was towards the end of the day as well. The last game of the day was the Furia Vitality match, which wasn't too much better. It did give us a little bit of a banger at the end once we did see that Furia was able to take down Vitality. If you guys have not been able to see that clip, definitely recommend that you guys look that thing up. But Again, the quarterfinal matchup, Gentlemates versus BDS, literally the worst whooping that a team has taken during the course of a playoff that we actually saw was tweeted out by Shift. A plus 15 goal differential. I mean, it wasn't even close. The 3 goal difference between that and second place, and then there was only a couple of goals between that and the next couple. So, I mean, Gentlemates really being able to put on a display. And it's kind of crazy to think that Gentlemates weren't even able to get into, really move past that semifinals threshold. Part of that was just because, honestly, Championship Sunday was an absolute movie. I mean, 13 of a possible 14 games between our 2 semifinal matches with Furia and G2, as well as Falcons and Gentlemates. I mean, the Falcons-Gentlemates series absolutely delivered when it came to starting off the event on Championship Sunday. I mean, going to overtime, even in game number 7. And again, man, we had 4 regions represented and nothing more than a 2-goal differential, even once we did get into that grand finals through the first 4 games we talk about for G2 and Falcons, other than that game number 5, which kind of ended up becoming more of that victory lap for G2. But I mean, the Gentlemates Falcons game looked pretty dope. The G2 Furious series was also really, really good. And despite that we did only get the 5 games in that grand final, I still think it delivered a really good product there. G2 versus Falcons. I don't think Falcons are too far behind. I think Mina getting closer and closer to seeing them being able to hoist the trophy for the first time in a LAN event there on the RLCS level. Now, of course, if you guys watched our predictions last week, at the start of the week heading into the event, y'all know that I was really high on Falcons. I actually expected this grand final right there, G2 versus Falcons. I did expect it to go 7 and actually go the opposite way. But I think otherwise, man, you got to be happy as far as seeing G2 up there, a team that had made a grand finals appearance in all of the events throughout the course of the 2024 season, both regionally as well as at LAN, finally able to get the monkey off the back, especially when it comes to LAN performances. And you've been seeing a lot of people talking, man, they put this team together to try and be a dynasty. So now the important thing is to see how they are able to respond after the win. Are they able to keep that same fire underneath their behinds and being able to really push to continue to be better? Because, yeah, we have a little bit of a break from RLCS, but you got Worlds here in a couple months. You've got the Esports World Cup. There's also been the announcement of a World Cup with FIFA as far as having 16 countries being represented, which I think is going to be absolutely fun to watch. I can't wait to see what teams end up getting qualified that way there. But one thing I did want to ask you guys who are listening in on the podcast this week is, do you guys think that G2 is the best team in the world now, despite the fact that they played 0 EU teams during their LAN run? And, that's kind of been something that has been talked about. You've been seeing some discourse throughout the, RLCS community. Look, man, at the end of the day, you can only play against who you have to play against out there on the pitch, right? It's not their fault that they did not get any draw against an EU team. I think when you look at their way through the Swiss bracket, I mean, maybe you could say a little bit of Mickey Mouse run, but you kind of earn that when you have a high seed, right? I mean, you beat Game and Gladiators 3-0, since you handle business. You get a good draw in round number 2 where they play Power. They also sweep that. Kind of surprised to see that they got swept by the Falcons, to be honest with you. I kind of thought that even if the Falcons played them during Swiss, it still would have been at least a 3-1, probably a 3-2. And then going the distance with Gen Gs, which I also think gives NA Rocket League Championship Series fans something to be excited about. That Gen G is right there with G2, and G2 has proved that they are the best team in the world. Of course, when it comes to playoffs, man, it's single elimination, and G2 had a pretty good run. I mean, you take, the NA 3 seed, but I mean, I think Space Station showed that even they are able to play at the highest of levels. And then you take down Furia, who did look really good. I mean, they took down last year's world champions in Vitality. And then against Falcons, I mean, the games were close there in the grand finals, but other than game number 1, which they did concede 2-1, and it was a close game, I mean, after that, it was G2's pitch, and the Falcons just happened to be playing on it. I mean, it was close, but in the final 4 games, the Falcons only able to find the back of the net just once. Kind of crazy to think about as far as at that level there. But, man, I think as far as for where the RLCS is for now. I think it sets up that we're at a global level. I mean, we're seeing that multiple regions are able to compete. Definitely interested to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know down those comments below. Of course, also feel free to jump in the Discord. That way you can be involved in the conversation each and every week. That's also down in that description below as well. But I do think RLCS has hit that point here where it is now a global esport. I think the FIFA World Cup is going to be something that will prove that. I think that should be a whole bunch of fun to watch. It's funny because actually during our watch parties for RLCS, I think we were talking about the potential of a World Cup. I want to say during Friday's watch party. Maybe it was Saturday. We definitely were talking about it at one point in time. And then all of a sudden on Sunday, they announced it. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, you got to imagine the French team's going to be pretty stacked. Obviously, NA's, for USA is going to be stacked. Saudi Arabia should be. I mean, honestly, there's going to be quite a few countries that are going to have really, really good squads. I'll be interested to see if it's 3 plus a sub, what the roster compositions are supposed to be looking like. Of course, we're going to be watching all of that, keeping tuned in over here. So if that's something you're interested in and it's your first time through over on the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and turning those notifications on. But one thing that you guys know about me, if you've been tuning in over here on the channel for a while, your boy does watch quite a bit of SSA since we're on the desk over there for the main broadcast. And if y'all are a part of the RLCS community over on Twitter, you probably saw the tweet the other day. VKSailen of Team Mobila, the squad that were the import team that came in and were able to qualify for LAN in SSA, despite the fact that it was 3 Spaniards. Had a very interesting take, a very interesting tweet. So let's go ahead and read it real quick. And I want to get your guys' take on it, chat. VKSailen, every day I spent in London made me think more that I made the right decision on taking over the SSA spot. None of the minor regions deserve this when other players that deserve it more because of their level or I think it's supposed to be and COVID era lost their opportunity or in COVID era lost their opportunity. I hope players around the world see what we have done and do the same, going to this minor regions to take their spot until real good players from those continents improve to take their spot back. That's how things should be done. Prioritize competitive level, not just having a spot because you think you deserve it. Speaking about thinking that you deserve it, a player who had to leave EU, didn't think that they would be able to qualify, knows that they wouldn't have been able to qualify, and instead goes to SSA, the I would say the newest of the developed regions when we talk about the minor regions, right? Obviously, APAC has been around for a little bit. OCE has been around for quite some time, even though still considered a minor region. But SSA finally getting a guaranteed spot, not just for Worlds or Wildcard, but actually getting those spots for the major as well. We saw Limitless there for major number 1, able to hold off the imports of Young Money Clan. We all thought that the downfall at the end of Young Money Clan, there was nothing that was going to top that. I think this just might do it. I'll tell you what, VKSailen here, I know that part of their thing was trying to impression farm and to be able to get the clickbait and stuff like that. VKSailen missing out on a huge opportunity without having that blue check mark to try and monetize his Twitter profile, because 661,000 views, it is kind of wild. And it's crazy you had that many views. Only 484 likes. Having quite a few people from the RLCS community turning up with some amazing responses. Hoxer, it's unfortunate with you guys taking the SSA spot. We didn't get any more of those real good players at LANdon. Hilarious. Batira, if I am from France, I play in EU. If you are from SSA, you play in SSA. If players in SSA are bad, then let them improve with majors, question mark. VKSailen and him kind of have a back and forth, which is quite interesting. Oh, I didn't mean to actually pull it out that long. Basically, they ended up going on a talk. VKSailen did indeed ended up going 0-3, just the way that we have seen the Limitless boys do in the past. I would argue that they kind of got lucky with their 1 game win over Twisted Minds that they got. Probably should have gone 0-9. And it's really unfortunate to see this sort of take from VKSailen. Where's the one take that I think Months had kind of along the lines of what I was thinking, right? It's like literally if y'all just say you want the money and the chance to go to a major, people would have been disgruntled but would have moved on. But this fake idealistic crap is just so bad, LMAO. You don't believe this, no one believes it. no one is fooled. Stop fooling yourself. Like coming in and like playing the villain or the victim, right? And saying, oh, we're just here to travel the world and play Rocket League because it's allowed in the rules. And then all of a sudden at the end, truly trying to play the villain is just strange to me. My opinion. I'm not sure what you guys think, but plenty of pros, stepped up and we're talking. I mean, Garrett G, bro, I honestly don't know, or I honestly don't think as many people would care if you just didn't act this way. You're taking away an opportunity from a region. At least be respectful and thankful. The rules are the rules. I can understand that, but acting this way is just not the move. 1000% agreed. Ahmad from Twisted Minds saying your record is supposed to be 0-9. My bad. You love to see it. But even when you just kind of look at some of like the quote retweets, man, I mean, it went absolutely insane. I don't get to see him, do I? I guess we could probably go see the related post. Oh no, this doesn't do exactly. I guess it got some of them here. Kind of how people are acting. But I mean, honestly, I think for me, especially as someone who worked in the back, did work on the SSA main broadcast, I was one of the ones who, throughout the course of split number 2, was kind of more on the side of Team Mobile, right? Hate the game, not the player. You know what I mean? The rules are the rules. And if anything, they did go down into SSA, at least with 2/3 of their player. One of them, Leoro, was in uni, so was unable to make the trip down, was still having to play, from home. But I mean, did have 2 of their 3 main roster players down living in the region. I guess that's when we talk about this whole 2/3 rule. What does residency look like in order to qualify for that 2/3 rule? If they were to apply it, I don't know. But man, it's very sad to see kind of like the downfall of how quickly things have turned. It felt like, at least maybe from an outsider view, that maybe the boys were getting a little bit too much hate. But then it just kind of completely try and play the villain towards the end. Quite sad. We've seen the super sub Harmonic is looking for a team, whether it's an EU or SSA next year. I know Rubik's has also left the Team Mobile project, as they're calling it. So I don't know if maybe this was just supposed to be like one last little round of impression farming and baiting, just because VKSailen isn't sure who they're going to be able to play with next year or what the dealio is. But definitely interested to know your guys' thoughts. We've obviously been talking about this topic ad nauseum over the course of the split, just because it has been something we've been seeing a lot of the big guys talk about, and we are directly involved in it as a part of that RLCS broadcast over in the SSA region. I do think we've seen the talent in the region trying to catch up to Team Mobile over the course of split number 2, or even the players other than Limitless, the teams other than Limitless, trying to catch up to Young Money Clan in split number 1. I think we have seen the players get much better over the course of the year in SSA. I do think that this is one of those situations where I don't know if you want to continue to have like it completely open like the Wild Wild West, right? I do think there has to be some sort of regulation. But I think also when you look at APAC and how that region has developed without there being a 2/3 rule or something like that, it's kind of argue, why is there one special here for SSA? I do think the proximity for EU to SSA is something that should be considered, because obviously it's kind of harder to play remotely into OC or into APAC from other parts of the world as opposed to EU down into SSA. I kind of thought going into the major, 2 different thoughts of mine, or trains of mine really. One was, if obviously they don't do well, Limitless still get their shot at Worlds and they're still able to build from that. But then I was wondering, was if Team Mobile does well on the global stage and proves that really they were kind of close with the rest of the EU teams, that maybe they should have been competing there. Instead, I think obviously showing why they chose SSA of all regions to try and play out of and take the spot for at least the first iteration of their project of going to these regions and playing RLCS in. I think if you scroll through the comments over on Twitter, I think you can see how most of the community feels. Would not be surprised if we do not see VKSailen back, at least in SSA. I don't know who's going to team with the kid, to be honest, at this point. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. Obviously, like we keep an eye on multiple titles over here on the channel, especially when it comes to the podcast. We do watch a couple of other esports, one of which, of course, being ALGS. I want to touch on a couple of things. We're not going to hit the ALGS too heavy just because there's not a whole bunch going on this weekend. So I kind of want to talk about a few kind of off, I think, topic things. I don't really want to talk so much as far as about direct results from any particular like series last week. Obviously, when we talk about NA, which I think a majority of our base is going to be what they're more concerned with, the super team Falcons. I mean, they just are what they are, right? They're sitting at the top. Yeah, they still have 2 play sessions left to get first. They could almost tie the record from Aurora last year for most points in a split. I think Team Falcons are still seen as the very solidified #1 team in the world right now. But what's interesting is behind them, there's such a big gap between them and #2. Remember last split, we did have DZ who looked very good in NA, but right behind them, they had Moist who was pretty well keeping similar pace with them. You talk about, I mean, what is that? A 35-point gap? Team Falcons almost don't even need to play and they can still finish in that #1 spot at the end of everything. So kind of crazy to think about. But then I think when you look behind them, you see that there's some interesting faces and names, maybe some unexpected names. Like I don't think a lot of people were expecting TSM that if they were going to qualify to LAN after losing Hal, where they did. I don't know if people were expecting TSM to be top 3 in NA. I mean, obviously they could be overtaken by Liquid if Liquid does have at least a half decent day in their first half of their doubleheader whenever they do return from that 4th of July break. But it's interesting to see that I feel like the top of the board has kind of shifted. Obviously, part of that is because TSM and DZ kind of combined together, right? Team Falcons, now that super team at the top. But I can't help but wonder if the POI draft has become the great equalizer when it comes to the rest of ALGS. I mean, when you look at how tight the race is, yeah, when you look at second through, I mean, what, maybe we could even go down to 6th, 75 through 67. Those are all kind of tight. But I think when you look in particular down at spots 11 and 12, more so 12, obviously, because there's only one more spot left. And then the regional finals where those points also count towards the LAN's qualifying spots. But when you look at 12th, it is 43 down to 38 points. And let's even include Temper in there since they do have a double header, so they're missing a series of 34 points. Actually, even really, if you want to go all the way down to 25th, because you have Empire who has 33. Now they do have 5 series, but then when you look at Flat and Native Gaming, 2 teams that are down towards the bottom 30 points, they also have that double header coming up this weekend. So I think when it comes into this final weekend, I would probably say 11th and 12th still up for grabs. Even the Pioneers in 10th, they still got to at least have a half decent day just to make sure that they're above that line. But of course, we do still have regional finals after that as well. So it's not just going to be about the weekend of the 6th and 7th, which we will be trying to watch as many of those games as possible. Obviously over on the Twitch channel as well as here on YouTube. So if it's your first time through, you want to tune in for that, make sure you're smacking that subscribe button. But I can't help but wonder if the draft has kind of helped with that. Now, all of a sudden, you have these teams who can't consistently fight out of their good POIs or having to adjust. I mean, we've seen plenty of teams, really, when you look across the globe in the different regions that have either fallen off, they're having to make some big changes. I mean, Aurora getting rid of Hardeki, kind of crazy, right? Hardeki doing so well, and now all of a sudden being given the bootskis is quite interesting. Even when you look at APAC South, you got Virtus Pro, a team that's, got quite a few big names on that roster. They are absolutely underperforming as well. Dreamfire wasn't even doing that good until their last double header. So it feels like, still seeing a lot of up and down turmoil. I think part of it just because of the inconsistency from the draft, really putting extra stress, not only on the players, but obviously, especially on the IGLs. We are seeing some of that best IGLs, obviously still sitting at the top when you talk about your Fanatics, when you talk about, I mean, even in APAC South, Legends Gaming, Strafing Flame has proven to be one of those top names in the region. Obviously, Falcons have 0. Sweet over at LG. What's crazy is that popping off with the IGL over with TSM. But again, I just think that we're seeing where the top IGLs are really solidifying themselves still in those top spots. But then everything kind of behind that in each and every one of the regions, it just feels like the POI draft has really been able to kind of equalize things there. The one region, obviously, well, there's 2 regions when it comes to ALGS, so we don't exactly get to keep an eye on week to week. One being South America, but the other one being China. And when it comes to China, usually I kind of rely on the homie B-Rat, who does a lot of the coverage over in APAC South as well. I know I was tuning in for a little bit of the end of the watch party. So they had this Dream Cup, and the top 2 teams that weren't pro teams get to qualify for the Split 2 playoffs. But tell me, how fair is it that it is the 8th and 10th team? Because 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... all pro teams that compete in the the APAC South region, but for some reason, since these teams at 8th and 10th in this tournament, 8th and 10th qualify for the playoffs. That's wild. What's the point in allowing pro teams to be in these cups? I mean, truly, I do not understand. Now, I mean, the only thing that I can think is obviously they're still considered a minor region, so maybe it's just about filling the lobbies with quality teams. I don't know, man. I'm just gonna tell you, I gotta be honest, I don't know how well it sits with me that the 2 teams that are qualifying out of a region got 8th and 10th in their qualifier event. Just seems kind of strange to me. But I mean, we can see here just a lot of, I mean, pro teams that were around, SWQ, X and Y. I mean, teams that we have seen throughout the course of the split over in APAC South. So, let me know your guys' thoughts, I guess, down in the comments below. Do you guys think that pro teams should be able to compete in a tournament where teams qualify for the ALGS playoffs, even if it's not them who can qualify for that spot? I don't know. It just, for me, something doesn't sit right with that. But definitely feel free to let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. I don't want to talk too much as far as upcoming stuff for ALGS, just because, well, we don't have anything this upcoming week, so we can do that next week when it comes to the ALGS. And I'm also kind of looking down here at the time. I know we're getting kind of close to that 30-minute window where I did say I'm trying to keep these podcast down to. So I think we're going to go ahead and hold off on talking about VCT as well. I mean, we're only just getting started. I think we're in week number 2, wrapping up week number 2 for Pacific EMEAs in its first week, although we've already seen a great game. I think it was Heretics and Foot that played yesterday. EMEA is already off to a banger. NA, I believe, starts either this weekend or just started. So there isn't too much to talk about. We talked about obviously a little bit some roster moves heading into the Split 2 or whatever they call it, Act 2, I think they might call it, for VCT in the last episode, in episode number 9. So check that out in case you are kind of curious. But chat, I think it's time that we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Everyone's been talking about it this week, obviously, with everything going on. It's flooded my TL. I've thought about muting words. I'm just too lazy. If I can be honest with you, I'm just too lazy to go through and mute words and be all worried about that stuff. But let's talk about the guy with the mustache, chat. Dr. Disrespect. Obviously had gotten banned from Twitch a few years ago. There were some rumors that had been floating around. More rumors, or I guess even allegations, you can say, since there seemed to be some validity to that as far as with the more sources coming forward, which I do think is why we didn't see any news about it for so long. I think you have these journalists, and I'm not talking about the Desertos that are cool with having an anonymous source and just running with the story so they can get their clicks, right? But actual journalists, and one of which we'll actually talk about some of their work here at the end of this portion, talking about Dr. Disrespect. but there for so long, nobody had any information. So much has kind of come across pretty well over the course of this week. We did see that Dr. Disrespect did say that they're going to be taking a little bit of time away. And then literally everything started unfolding. It feels like maybe Dr. Disrespect was just trying to get ahead of it. But let's go ahead and read the actual tweet itself. The Twitch ban. Hello, I'd like to make a quick statement. Let's cut the fucking bullshit. As you know, there's no filter with me. I've always been upfront and real with you guys on anything that I can be upfront about. And I'm always willing to accept responsibility, which is why I'm here now. Right. First and foremost, I do want to apologize to everyone in my community, as well as those close to me, my team, and everyone at Midnight Society Gaming or Game Studio. So not the person that we're going to be talking about in just a moment. Not the victim. Just your fans is who you're sorry for. Got it. Yo, that's crazy. A lot of people have been left in the dark about what happened yesterday with Midnight Society and I, and we made the painful decision collectively to have me step down. Although if you follow the Midnight Society, head guy said he made the decision, it doesn't sound like it was a mutual one. That's one of the red flags that already pops up within the first couple of sentences here, chat. Our team is full of incredibly talented and good people that have high career ambitions and families, and I never want to jeopardize the culture we have carefully crafted. Everyone has been wanting to know why I was banned from Twitch, but for reasons outside of my control, I was not able to say anything for the last several years. Now that 2 former Twitch employees have publicly disclosed the accusations, I can now tell you my side of the story regarding the ban. And I think a very important thing to keep in mind that we'll kind of circle back to is that they were former Twitch employees. All right. And again, keep that in mind. We will circle back towards that there at the end, but they are former Twitch employees. All right. Were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Why would anybody in the world feel the need to make sure to point out that it was an individual minor? Look, I'm not saying that there's a profile or anything like that when it comes to these sort of accusations of people with high incomes, a status, a celebrity sort of status sort of deal, successful, rich, white, cis man. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no profile at all. Were there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. Right, because every guy that Chris Hansen ever caught when they were texting who they thought were minors always came over and said, oh, well, there was no real intention. I just wanted to go grab some cupcakes with the minor. Right? These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lead too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Sometimes leaning towards... Remember, this is about as nice as this thing is going to sound is from the mouth itself of Dr. Disrespect, right? Nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared. No crimes were committed. I never even met the individual. Let's go back and circle back and let's see how precise they are with their words. An individual minor, and then what was it again? Nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared. No crimes were committed. I never met the individual. The reason that I want to point that out, keep in mind how specific of words it is, because I know that there are a lot of people who are saying, well, did he know that the individual was a minor? I feel like if we're being this careful with our words, probably would have mentioned that. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I went through a lengthy arbitration regarding a civil dispute with Twitch, and that case was resolved by a settlement. I also feel like settlement usually don't happen unless something happened. Let me be clear. It was not a criminal case against me, and no criminal charges have ever been brought against me. Right. Now, from a moral standpoint, I'll absolutely take responsibility. I should have never entertained these conversations to begin with. That's on me. That's on me as an adult, a husband, and a father. A father of a daughter, by the way. You kidding me? That's on me. That's on me as an adult, a husband, and a father. It should have never happened. I get it. I'm not perfect, and I'll fucking own my shit. This was stupid. All right. Seems like we're starting to get somewhere. Now, with all that being said, don't get it fucking mistaken. I've seen all the remarks and labels being thrown around so loosely. Social media is a destruction zone, and I'm no fucking predator or pedophile. Bro, you admitted to texting a minor. Yes, you are. It might hurt you to hear that, but you admitted it. Your own words, my guy. I don't understand. Are you kidding me? Anyone that truly knows me, Bucky knows where I stand on those things with those types of people. What type of people? The people who text minors? I don't fucking know. Fuck that. That's a different level of disgust that I fucking even hate even hearing about. Don't be labeling me as the worst of the worst with those exaggerations. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. It's like you admit to it, but then you say, again, if you're going to own up to it, I think everyone would respect you if you just own up to it, my dog. I don't know why you're saying, oh yeah, I was talking to a minor, but I wasn't a predator. There was obviously enough going on where you lost the Twitch thing. You know what I mean? Let's not forget that Twitch is not very good when it comes to removing people off of their platform that they probably should. Like, Twitch is actually pretty dog shit at it. Just keep that in mind in the back of your mind. But I think I've said what I needed to say regarding the ban itself. That's it. That's why Twitch made the decision in 2020. To my team, community, industry fans friends that have supported me, I apologize. I wish I could have said all this sooner. You guys have always shown me and my family love and support throughout all these years. We love you guys like you can't imagine. I have the fucking best community and circle. If any of this made you uncomfortable, I get it. You don't have to support me anymore, but just know you have always been greatly appreciated. What? But trust me when I say this, to all my haters that live and breathe social media with zero real life experience, I don't give a fuck about you. Then why did you even bring them out? My guy, wanting to prove a point. Obviously you care a little bit. Finally, if you're uncomfortable with the entire statement and think I'm a piece of shit, that's fine. But I'm not fucking going anywhere. Didn't you say that you're going to be taking a break indefinitely to go to Costa Rica? Where the age of consent is 15, by the way. Not that I'm sure that there's any sort of correlation there. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm not the same guy that made this mistake all those years ago. Bro, you were like in your you are 42 right now, my guy. You are my age now, 7 years ago. I can't imagine talking to a 17-year-old. That's fucking gross. Disgusting. Fucking disgusting. I'm not the same guy that made this mistake all those years ago. I'm taking an extended vacation with my family as mentioned on stream, and I'm coming back with a heavy weight off my shoulder. You want me to disappear? Yeah, fucking right. And you know what fucking sucks, chat? You know what's like so hard to think about all this? He's fucking right. He's not going anywhere. What's worse is you know that this man's going to take a break. He's going to come back in 2 or 3 months and he's probably going to have record viewership. So all the dude bros are going to be like, yeah, we support you, my guy. Fight the power. But protect the children, even though you're grooming them. Woo! I don't know, man. Just kind of weird for me. I do think, though, something to think about, like, this isn't probably, there's just no way that this is an isolated case. Do you know what I mean? There is just no absolute way. I think if anybody knows anything about the industry, especially the internet just in itself, social media platforms, it's no way that this is an isolated issue. We even have Relum at Relum714, the doctor disrespect situation. I don't think most people have an idea of how bad things were behind the scenes at Twitch. I literally worked in the department that had access to the most data and information. I saw private messages or private whispers, etc. It was literally my job to investigate daily. I saw things every single day that I wish I had never seen. I always advocated for being a good human. Always express with heavy emotion on my streams for Twitch. Always express with heavy emotion on my stream how Twitch lets pedophiles run free every day. I signed an NDA and afraid to get in trouble, but I have to say something. It's been bothering me so long. These sick fucks don't deserve to be free. Which is where I also want to go over to, if you guys don't follow Kevin Hitt, first off, you guys need to. Award-winning journalist, as it says, on X.com, aka Twitter. But someone I've been following for a while, since back when they were with the Sports Business Journal, currently working with Sportskeeda, has honestly been coming out with some banger tweets the last couple of days, all week, about the things going on. And kind of starting off on June 25th, I guess, as things were starting to go. Remember when I told you this thing was going to blow up? But wait, there's more. I think that's where we're talking about having either more people. Wait a minute. What if it's not just Twitch, though? Because around the same time, didn't Dr. Disrespect lost his partnership with Discord? Bro, Discord's so fucking bad. They're worse than Twitch, bro. Oh, people got receipts on this guy from Discord, don't they? Oh, there's like a whole server of these predators that are probably partners. And people have the receipts. Is that what he's talking about? That has to be what he's talking about, right? Or at minimum, that Twitch knew about it and that nothing, like they just continue to cover him up because of the money investment. Also, think about that from Twitch. Like, you have all this, like, proof, and you still settle and you pay this creep money? That's weird, bro. I don't know. That's crazy. Anyways, had some other bangers. You don't get banned and almost have life-changing money taken away from you by just being a little inappropriate. Do you? Again, I think you should probably follow Kevin Hitt if you don't. Pretty awesome guy. The reason I wanted to talk about the Dr. Disrespect situation to begin with, if we're being honest, is I don't think people are realizing that this could be so much deeper, not just in the fact that other people could be involved, but when we talk about a space when it comes to gaming, and in particular, what we talk about over here on this podcast, esports. What if the biggest platform where a lot of these esports are televised or streamed, or however you want to put it, is all of a sudden all backed up with litigation because they've been allowing pedophiles to run free? I mean, Amazon probably at that point has to sell. Who picks it up? And does that cause more of a drought when it comes to this esports winter that seems to be going on? I mean, maybe that's what maybe shifts more esports organizations to do their broadcasting over on YouTube, which I could see that being the case as well, which I don't necessarily hate, but YouTube does need to work on their UI a little bit, especially the viewing experience. I don't know, man. I'm curious what you guys think. Definitely feel free to let me know your guys' thoughts down in those comments below. I do think definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on as more of this breaks down over the upcoming couple of weeks, maybe even months, who knows. I don't want to talk about it ad nauseum. I don't want to talk about this much every single week. I'm not going to be one of those outlets that tries to like bleed this story dry, but I do think it is worth noting, not only because it's a big problem that's not just in gaming, but actually in esports as well. But I think a lot of people aren't thinking about what this could really do as far as the back end and damaging even like the esports scene as well. So if you guys see that that's something that's possible, feel free to let me know. Again, feel free to jump on the Discord too, man. I love having these sort of conversations throughout the course of the week itself. All right. But I know I'm already over that 30-minute mark. I'm pretty sure I'm closing in on 45 minutes. I apologize, y'all. I'm trying to keep these podcasts around that mark. That way it's something that y'all can consume on your lunch or something like that. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing one of these podcasts next week. Next week, we do have 4th of July, Independence Day for us North American, us USA. For those of us here living in the States. So I'm going to be spending time with my family and stuff. So I'm not sure if we'll be getting around to, episode 11 next week, or maybe if we'll just wait for the week after that. But definitely make sure that you guys are keeping an eye out. Next weekend, we're going to be doing watch parties for ALGS. We've got the regional finals for APAC South and APAC North. And then we also have the final 2 play sessions for North America as well as for EMEA. And we've got some other things, coming your way over the coming course of the next couple of weeks. Should be a lot of fun, different events that we're going to be watching. We're going to be bringing up some different kind of content ideas and things like that over to the channel. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. If y'all enjoyed the vibe and you're watching this podcast here on YouTube, man, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on. That way we can catch y'all back over here, not just for the podcast, when we do different sort of esports analysis, as well as watch parties and things like that. Remember those likes, comments, shares, all of those things tell YouTube that they should be putting the content in front of more people. And of course, obviously, make sure you're checking those links at the end of the video video if you want to check out what other kind of content I do happen to put out if it's your first time through over here. All right. But with everything that we're kind of talking about at the end of this episode, I think it's just important to remember, man, it doesn't matter how great of a person you are, or how smart of a person you are, or how successful of a person you are, if you can't simply be a good person. You know what I mean? It costs you nothing to treat people with dignity and respect, man. So happy 4th of July to y'all here in the United States if y'all celebrate. Otherwise, hopefully you guys have yourselves a great rest of this weekend and through this following week. Until we catch y'all back for the next one, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere. Game hard and love hard. All right, y'all? It's your boy Q. Signing out.